Hey folks, you know I take my trail camera intel pretty seriously. It's a huge part of how I build my hunting strategy, and I'm always looking for gear that just flat out works. Stuff I can rely on. Backed by solid people and the best customer support in the business. That's exactly why I run Tacticam Reveal cell cameras. Whether you're just getting started or you're a full-blown data junkie like me, they've got a camera to fit your budget and your hunting style. My go-to currently is the Reveal 3.0 series with fully integrated GPS. These things are dead simple to set up. Less fiddling, more scouting and hunting. And they run on most major service providers and will automatically connect you to the strongest signal in your area. So no more hiking to the top of a ridge just to realize you've got the wrong service provider. Been there, not fun. Here's the kicker. You don't even need an SD card. That means fewer trips in, less pressure on your spots, and more real-time intel sent straight to your phone. And if you pair it with a Reveal solar panel or a lithium cartridge, you can keep those cameras running longer and spend more time doing what actually matters. Scouting new ground, dialing in a setup, or maybe, just maybe, finally cleaning the garage like you told your wife you would before the season started. Don't just take my word for it. Check out Tacticam Reveal at tacticam.com. Tacticam. Everything you need to take your hunting to the next level. Stay more comfortable, more concealed, and in the stand longer with Oscio gear. Premium camouflage apparel created for bow hunters by bow hunters. Oscio's revolutionary patented camo patterns and innovative features are designed to keep whitetail bow hunters totally invisible and dead quiet. Elevate your game with Oscio. Visit asiogear.com and take 20% off your purchase with code TRUTH20. You know, when it comes to mobile hunting, weight and efficiency matter. And that's why for years I've trusted Tethered, the industry leader in saddle hunting gear. Like always, this year they've taken it up a notch with their new whitetail frame pack and the hybrid or the minimalist bino harness. And if you're looking for their most comfortable saddle they've ever built, meet the all-new Carnivore 2P. If you're like me and spend long hours in season scouting, hiking miles, and pulling those all-day sits, you got to check out Tethered's gear. I spent over 30 days this October and November chasing a particular buck. Long hikes, long sits. And Tethered system kept me dialed in. My kit, the Ultralock saddle, 1-Sticks, Predator CFX platform, and the Fast Pack. If you're serious about staying mobile and staying quiet and hunting smarter, check out everything they've got at tethered.com. Tethered, made for saddle hunters by saddle hunters. Welcome to the Truth from a Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Tacticam Reveal Cellular Cameras. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 439. Today I'm joined by my buddy, Johnny Utah, to talk about being on a journey of growth. So stay tuned. All right. What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are feeling fine on this early spring, May day. Hopefully, if you're a PA person, hopefully you've had a chance to get out and chase some turkeys around this opening weekend of turkey season. My turkey season's on hold. I'm actually out of town this past weekend. Went to Denver with my wife. Our anniversary was in the spring, so we decided to go to Denver to see a concert at Red Rocks. I've always wanted to go to a concert at Red Rocks. Super cool venue. If you don't know about it, you should check it out. It's kind of built into the mountain, I guess, if you will. I don't know a whole lot about it other than it just looks killer and supposedly sounds killer. So we're headed there as I'm recording this prior to leaving. And so that's the plans for this weekend. So no turkey chasing, no scouting. And then next weekend is my daughter's prom. So I have to be home for, prom photos and all that kind of stuff. So probably limited on what I'll be able to get out to do next weekend as well. And so then after that, then I think my official kind of postseason scouting, if you will finally start. It's going to be very targeted and very kind of specific. Not going to cover nearly as much ground as I had kind of hoped. But it is what it is. I have a pretty good beat on the things that happen around me locally. And so we'll kind of use that as our fallback plan. And up north, hopefully I can figure something out and find something to maybe chase up there. If not, then I'll spend some time around home. So we'll just kind of play it by ear this year because the plan is to head back to the Midwest this year. And so I'm setting my sights and my plans for that. And I might take an extended trip to the Midwest this year, kind of like I did last year, chasing that deer in Pennsylvania where I kind of lived and worked out of the trailer, for a very long period of time, considering doing something similar, but in the Midwest this year. So we'll see kind of how all that plays out. So it seems like fall plans are starting to kind of take shape a little bit, and somewhat my hand is being forced a little bit just by what's happening in life in general, and where my time is prioritized and needs to be allocated. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just jump into today's show. Have a cool show for you guys today. Have my buddy on, Mr. Johnny, by God, Utah Mulligan. You guys know him. You love him. Johnny hasn't been on in a little while. I want to say it's probably been over a year, but as you guys know, like, that dude chases turkeys, kills turkeys, travels, hunts, kills critters. And so we talk all about that, of course. But the other thing we talk about is just kind of his, I guess, like, his evolution as he continues to, evolve in his career, and as well as how he's evolving. And we talk a little bit about this, so for those who don't like grappling, I'm going to apologize in advance. We do talk some grappling because John just got his blue belt. And so we talk a little bit about that and, like, the significance of that, but not just the significance of it on the mat per se, but the significance of doing hard things and how it kind of translates to your everyday life, and how it translates to hunting success, and just overall, like, how it changes your perspective on how you approach things in general. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and just jump into today's show. As always, thank you all for listening. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Truth from Stan Deer Hunting Podcast. And today I have on, you guys, if you're watching the video, you'll recognize that lovely mug on the other end, Mr. Johnny, by God, Utah Mulligan. What's going on, dude?
What is happening, my brother? It's been forever. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, my reoccurring guest role is getting spread out.
Right. Right. I just got to make sure everyone gets a taste. You know what I mean? I can't keep you all to myself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because I saw you making you were out with I did watch the episode that you did with, what's his name from Fieldcraft Survival? I'm forgetting his name.
Greg Lappin?
Yeah. I watched that episode. That was a good episode.
Thanks. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah. It's, like, I had Kevin Estella used to work with them, and then I think he branched off and is doing, like, his own thing now. And he was like like survival, like outdoor survivalist, like expert guy.
Yeah.
But those guys were always good to me as far as, like, giving me time to, like, chat with them and stuff like that. But I thought it was cool that you got to that you did the session with Greg, and that you actually then got to train with him too afterwards. And that dude's a beast.
Yeah. He's so strong.
Which is something for you to say.
Yeah, because I'm bigger than Greg is, probably a good 20 pounds bigger. He's a little leaner than I am. He's already starting to cut for the Euro World, but just so strong, like from the elbows to the fingertips. That's where I felt the strength, in his grip, like I said, I kind of joked, and he grabbed a hold, like he got a sleeve grip and a collar grip, and the first thing I thought was, so when I was in kindergarten, I drank 2 milks and I only paid for one after recess. Like, I was, like, confessing to shit,
Dude, that's what'll happen, dude. Whenever, like, those dudes that just are next level get a hold of you, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm paying for whatever I've ever gotten away with. I'm paying for it now.
Yep.
It's exactly what it is. That's awesome. But how, before we jump into things, man, how you been? How are things out in Iowa?
Good.
What have you been up to?
Yeah, so Iowa's Iowa. Like I always say, like, if you take away the hunting, we don't have a whole lot. But the weather's finally starting to turn, and we're getting out of all that nasty gray.
Yeah,
we had all winter. Yeah. So, and our weather here is very comparable to PA weather. Yeah. It kind of, the only thing that changes is if I get rain on a Monday, you're going to get it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been pretty good. Family's doing good. I'm just kind of like, I'm anxious to kind of just get things going. We're getting ready to do food plots, and we have some trail cameras out already, but I'm just kind of anxious to get into the cycle of of it.
Yeah, I know. I feel you. Like, I've been chomping at the bit, and like this winter for me has been crazy, just busy. And I've said this on other podcasts. I won't, belabor all the points, but I typically get a lot of time in the winter to do a lot of like postseason scouting and stuff like that, and I love that part of it. But and I wanted to talk to you about this a little bit because I feel like as I'm kind of going, and my time becomes less and less, you're in the similar, but I mean, you have two kids that are older than my daughter, and your one son's about the same age as my daughter, right? And so they hit this certain stage where they start to get like their own social calendars and their own lives and stuff like that, to where now, like, and it's not just their own, like, you're now part of it as well, right? Because you're still the parent and stuff like that, right? So all kinds of like odd shit eats up your Saturdays and stuff like that you didn't have to do when they were like 10. Like, you had a whole other host of things you had to deal with whenever they were younger, like, constant care and stuff like that, right? But like, then there's this other stuff that's just like, it's bigger and it takes up more of your time, which is, seems crazy, that happens, but it does. And that's kind of what my winter has been like a lot of just like, okay, we got to do this on Saturday. Okay, she's got to do this on Saturday. It's like, I got to drive her. I got to drive. Okay, so she's going to drive to do this, and I got to make sure I'm here for this. It's just, and I'm like, I'm looking at the calendar, and I'm like, dude, where did January, February, and March go? Because I've gotten some stuff done, like you said, like I've gotten some cameras out, locally. Nothing in the North Piece that I've been hunting lately. Not even made it up there. And so I'm starting to have to switch how I kind of do my scouting now to a degree, to where I don't get the same free reign I used to get to kind of like just do like this mass exploration for months. It's now like got to be very targeted, and this is what I'm doing, and this is the plan for next year. And then it's just a lot of in-season scouting as opposed to like postseason scouting now. It's crazy. Like, I'm having to kind of change like my whole game to a degree.
Yeah. Well, it's life changes, right?
Yeah.
Like, the first thing that I noticed was with kids and having personal time constraints, pulling you in other ways. Like, I didn't shoot my bow as much.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that I noticed. Because, man, I used to be like 100 arrows a day, having to replace strings before we got to season. That was the first thing I noticed. Postseason scouting was the next thing that kind of went away, and that got replaced with family. Trade show season has gotten so much longer, it seems like, and I think it's the preparation too. Like, you go to a show, then you got to digest the show, then you have your follow-ups, and then did you shoot content while you were there, and that kind of stuff, and then you go back through all the emails and with this hunting industry as it is right now, I've been using this phrase a lot lately, that it's like a snake eating itself. And, used to be, I could video a hunt and that's it. Then it was like, okay, we need photos too. Right. And then it was, okay, now we need video, photo, and we need reels. Right. Now we need photo, video, reels, and you got to do giveaways. Right. Now we need photo, reels, videos, and we also want you to jump on TikTok too. And I'm like, where does it? My paycheck's not going up, but but I'm doing more and more work. For the same dollars now, and I always say there's a cycle. There's, like, for me anyways, there's always been a 4 to 5 year cycle. You're with a brand for 4 or 5 years. And then about that time, it's time for a new marketing director to come in. Loyalty goes out the window. And then, you reset and you're with a whole different company. And then that eats away more time. So now we got 2 or 3 emails and 2 or 3 conference calls renegotiating what our deals are. And it's not a matter of like, did you sell out? Because if a person, here's my example. If a person works at Home Depot and they're a hardware store manager and they're good at their job, and I'm at Home Depot, so inherently I have to hate Lowe's and Ace Hardware. Right. But if Lowe's corporate decides, hey, we don't want to work with John or Clint anymore, then you're like, well, okay, I have 2 options. I can go work for Lowe's now, or I can just be bankrupt.
Right, or I can live on the street.
Yeah, right. So it's like, well, hey, I guess I'm going to go work for Lowe's now, and people are like, oh, sell out.
Right. Yeah.
This guy sold out, and it's like, really? Like, look, man, I came to the realization a while ago, I get to hunt for a living, but I get paid to promote products. Right. I'm not a professional hunter. Right. I'm a professional promoter. Like, at the end of the day, I'm using products and telling people my experiences on what I found with the stuff and, is it good stuff, right? So I'm kind of over that part of it. And as you've probably seen, like through social media wise, that's eating in. That's another segue into talking about eating into time. Is I'm also kind of diversifying like what I'm doing.
Right.
I've always, I hunt 100 days a year, but I do jujitsu 250 days a year.
Right. Yeah.
But I go to the gym 320 days a year.
Right.
So it's like really hunting's number 3.
Yeah.
As far as what I do, but I've never really gone into that and talked about it, much. So, and then, I've gotten back into the gun world a little bit more. And so I'm kind of diversifying, and I'm just like, you know what, man, I'm just going to have fun. And this is the adventures.
Do the things that you like to do.
Yeah.
Do the things you like to do. I was actually thinking, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, where I think it took me a long time to kind of get there, or get to this point, maybe, that every day, basically now I do something that, at least one thing that I love.
Yeah.
Right. Every single day. And it wasn't always that way necessarily. And it's the things that I loved whenever I was like 16 years old. Like when I was growing up, there were 3 things I loved, like more than anything. And in no particular order, because they've all changed at different times, like which ones I preferred. Right. It's like,
well, what was her name?
Yeah. Right. It was Megan, my wife, in case you listen to this.
Good answer. Good answer.
No, it was like, the things that I loved like growing up was, in no specific order, was music, wrestling, and hunting. Like those were the 3 things I liked to do. Like at any given time, it's like, and it was very seasonal for me whenever I was growing up, whatever season it was. Like if it was baseball season, I was playing baseball. If it was football season, I was playing football. If it was wrestling season, I was wrestling. And, in the fall, winter, it's like I was hunting during that time, and then music became a part of it whenever I was like 13, 14. And that was kind of like all the time. Like it was in between everything else that I was doing all the time, and then, moved to Orlando and did that stuff. And then music was like the focus, and everything else kind of took the back burner, to a degree. And now I'm just at a point now where it's like every day, like to your point, jujitsu, I do 4 or 5 days a week. I pick up my guitar 2 or 3 times a week. I hunt during the course of hunting season, and I think the fact that I have these things that I like to do, and it almost feels seasonal, is whenever it's time to focus on them, it's like I'm actually really, really focused on them because I kind of miss them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that old saying that distance makes the heart grow fonder. I think there's a lot of truth to that, right? Because after hunting season, I'm usually kind of burnt, but I've also taken a little break from jiu-jitsu. So it's like I dive headfirst back into the jiu-jitsu. Not that I've ever left it, but it's like I'm still training during hunting season, but it's like I'm not there as often as I usually am,
Yeah.
And so whenever I get that time back, I'm like, oh man, I've missed being in the gym, and I'm doing that and I'm all in. And then usually whenever like late August starts rolling around, I'm kind of like, my body's a little beat up. I've been going at it for months, in the gym. And I'm like, phew, yeah, I'm ready for hunting season. Like I'm ready to like get in the travel trailer and go somewhere and be gone for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's like this might sound a little hippy dippy, but I feel like the past like 2 years, I've been able to find like a rhythm and a flow of life that like feels very natural and very kind of like normal for me. Mm-hmm. Where before I felt like I was just over rotated too far to like one thing too much.
Yep.
I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, it absolutely does, because that's what I'm trying to find right now is that balance. Like I'm in the chaos stage of everything smoothing out, because that's where I was getting frustrated. Is it's like I felt like everything in my life revolved around bow hunting. And if I wasn't bow hunting, then like something felt out of whack. But I also kind of felt like that's what and this sounds stupid and cheesy, that's what was expected of me, because I felt like my brand had been so much pigeonholed into John the bow hunter, and if I did anything outside of that, people were like, whoa, what is this guy doing? Like, oh, he's a fitness buff now? Like, I didn't just start working out yesterday,
This has been part of what you've done for a long time.
Yeah, I've never talked about it. Other than like amongst close friends, you and I've had conversations about it, where I've always said exercise is what feeds my mind. You know, a strong body creates a strong mind, and that's always been at the core principle of it all. But I'm like, you know, I'm just I'm going to share some of that and share more of what it is I do. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. Like
That, I think sometimes people need to hear that too, because it gives them license to say, you know, I don't have to be X. I don't have to be just one thing. I'm allowed to, you know, I'm allowed to have other interests. You know, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be any less good at any one thing. In fact, I think when you have a balance and you have a lot of different areas, because I mean, when you break it all down and when you think about it, you know, all the things that you're into and I'm into, they all kind of feed each other. Like they're very, you know, I'm trying to figure out what the word is, but they all kind of benefit the other, right?
Yeah.
Like you know, hunting, you know, certainly benefits, you know, my training, my jujitsu, right? Like just from the simple fact that like when I go out west and I hunt, you know, elk in the mountains of Idaho or whatever, and I come back to my legs are just like dialed. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like the best I've ever felt whenever I come back and I train.
Yeah.
And then just the way you have to think about things like analytically and stuff like that, right? Because like as you go along in, you know, jiu-jitsu or martial arts or whatever it is, like, you know, you probably have a strategic component of it, you know.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a chess game.
Yeah, it's a chess game. Yeah, exactly. You know, and like when you start to, whether it's you're playing tiddlywinks, literally playing chess, or you're doing jiu-jitsu, or if you're racing freaking motocross, like there's always a strategy component to everything, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's the part that feeds that. And then the jiu-jitsu part feeds the hunting part because it keeps me in great shape like all year, you know? So it's like, I'm never not ready for the hunting season. And it also kind of keeps my mind kind of working at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's that cause and effect. You know, if I set up and the deer gets in behind me and he smells me, he's blowing out of there. If I trap the arm and he pulls it away, okay, now we're going for a no arm triangle. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's always something to chain together with everything that we do and what the deer do. And so it's cause and effect, and it's trying to plan a couple of steps ahead. I do that much better with fitness and whitetails than I do with jiu-jitsu. I'm like maybe 0.2 steps ahead. But we're getting there.
Yeah. But speaking of, man, I wanted to give you your flowers publicly on the podcast because you and I have been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I was super excited when you started training. I mean, I think all my buddies should train. That's just how I feel about it. You know, I think it's good. And you got your blue belt promotion a little while ago, and I was super stoked for you on that. So how? So we'll talk about that for some people who aren't into grappling, like just hold your horses. We'll get to more hunting stuff, right? But this is like two buddies like catching. This is literally two buddies catching up, and you guys are just listening in.
Right.
Like, so just tell me about like how did you feel about it? I know you and I talked about it leading up to it and stuff like that, and we had a lot of chats just about training in general and like development and stuff like that. But you know, what were your, you know, I guess, thoughts as you like progressed through white belt and got your blue belt?
Yeah. So for people that aren't familiar with, you know, a lot of martial arts, especially jiu-jitsu, each belt comes with little 4 steps, as you know, and it's just a little piece of tape. And people that don't train jiu-jitsu do not understand how important that little piece of tape is and what you had to do to get it. So when I was a 4-stripe white belt and I competed in a Fuji tournament, and it was a pretty big Fuji tournament and a lot bigger than what I thought. I thought it was going to be like kind of a local deal. Like I might have a match, you know, but I ended up having like 6. And so I thought, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I did well. I got a couple of seconds in that, but did gi and no gi. But so that was at the end, you know, of white belt. And I'm like, you know, I feel like I did pretty solid. I feel like the blue belt's coming. And then it didn't. And then it didn't. And then it didn't. And it starts to get in your head. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I feel like I'm hanging with some of our newer blue belts, you know. Occasionally I might get one over on one of our upper blues or maybe a lower purple or something. But I was like, what's going on here? I'm putting in the time and I feel like I'm excelling. And then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not even going to think about it anymore. I'm tired of worrying about it. It was the very next practice that I went to. And at the end of practice, he's like, all right, everybody's, toe on the line up by rank. And I was like, oh, we're doing some promotions. That's cool. Was not even thinking about it. And he's like, literally, he's like, first guy right out of the gate. This is a guy, I got to promote this guy. He's like, dude comes in with like bruised, broken, bloody. It doesn't matter. He's, we can't keep him off the mat. So that was super cool. And just, in that community to have that recognition by your peers, guys that are choking you out, guys that you're choking out, or trying to choke out, and to have that respect from that group of people, it's different. An accomplished bow hunter that says, "Hey, awesome job on that kill," that means a lot in that realm.
Yeah.
But in a different group of people, it means something different in combat sports like that. And so yeah, it was super huge. I know you and I talked about it. Like, I think you actually were the first person to know that I got promoted. I text you a picture of the blue belt, like from class.
Yeah.
And so that meant a lot to me to share that with you, because you started the journey before I did. And I know how excited you were whenever I started as well. So, and we've compared positions and ideas and techniques, and even the mental strategy of shit, man, do I suck? Do I not suck? And people don't realize, even at 47 years old, like, you still want that, like,
validation from your guys.
You still want that. And so anyways, it's been cool.
Not too different. It's not too different from hunting, right? It's like, when something, like when you fill a tag or whatever, it's like other people will know and they'll be like, oh, that's awesome, this, that, the other, right? And like, you're appreciative of that. Like I always am, right?
Yeah.
But it means something different whenever your boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because even if, like, I don't care what the deer scores, you know what I mean? Like if you kill a deer and you're happy about it and you're stoked on it and you tell me the story of how it goes down.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fired up, for you, because that's, and I think like, that's all we're not that we're looking for, but that's what we appreciate, right?
Yeah.
It's like, is that validation of the people who know, like, the time we're putting in, the effort we're putting in and stuff like that. It's not about the tag getting filled per se. It's more like, your boys know that, this was like a tough hunt. You grinded it out. Like, I'll equate it to whenever I killed that deer in Iowa.
Yeah.
Like, you were hard pressed to find a guy. Like, actually, you couldn't find a guy that was more excited for me than you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you were like, dude, it was a 16-day and I screwed up 2 different shots on a big deer. You know what I mean? It was like the last day, the last hour, and you were just like, dude, you put the time in, bro. You know? And I was the happiest.
Well, and I got to help you drag it out.
Yeah.
Like, that's what made that, because I wasn't in the tree with you, but you were giving me the play-by-play as the day unfolded.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm like, oh my God, he missed that deer. I'm like, oh, that may have been his only crack at it, And it's going to be 5 more years before he gets to come back.
Yeah.
So being able to come out there with you at dark and drag that thing out and hoist it up in the truck and shoot your photos and stuff for you, I was like, man, I was so freaking jazzed up for you. And well, okay, so here's an example. What would mean more to get a congratulation from somebody that kind of knows you via social media versus you come back to camp, to elk camp or to deer camp, and your boys are there at the fireplace in the tents and going, hell yeah. You like that. So, because those are the people that you're in battle with at that moment. They're living it with you. So the people that you're on the mats with, that you're sweating and bleeding with, and they're trying to literally, crush your karate until you go to sleep. Like, when they tell you good job, like that means so much more. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, physically and mentally. And it just takes total consistency, which is what I love, because you've heard me say this before. Motivation is fake. Discipline is what's real.
Yep.
And so being disciplined to keep going in and think about, the conversations we've had about, I'm like, dude, I think I'm getting worse.
Yeah.
Like, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, wait, it all came together.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm good. And then the next conversation, Clint's like, hey, John, how's your training going? Like, dude, I suck, man.
I got worse again.
Yeah, I got worse again, So, but yeah, it's that constant, you're up and down, but you stay consistent with it and whatnot. And dude, like yourself, I mean, like you got your purple belt, like in record time, mind you. But here's the deal. People don't understand. You come from a wrestling background. Mm-hmm. You're in shape. Mm-hmm. You're a smart motherfucker. And you train 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen. And that's one of the things that my coach said as well during my promotion is he was like, hey, some of you guys didn't get promoted tonight and you saw other people get promoted. Think about why they got promoted. Some of these guys are in here 4 or 5 nights a week. Mm-hmm. The rest of you are in here 2 days a month.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that holds true for deer hunting too, right? Like that's the thing,
More time you do it.
Yeah. I know like when we had our promotion, and that's why I say, there's so much parallel between martial arts and sports like that and hunting, because the path to success is always the same. It's not mystical by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
We did our promotion. A bunch of my buddies got purple belts. A couple of my buddies got brown belts. And one of my buddies got his black belt. And at the end of the day, and tons of people got stripes and blue belts and stuff, right? And at the end of it, like our coach, Tim was just like, hey, look around the room for you guys that, got some promotions or whatever. And, when you look at these, like the more advanced guys that got their belt promotions and stuff that day, he was like, there's nothing special about any of these people.
Right.
And he kind of joked. He's like, well, there's some special people, right? Like he was like, but he's like, there's nothing special about what they do. Yeah. He was like, and he went down the line. And he was like, Kent, who got his black belt, he's like, how long you been training? He's like, 12 years. Next guy was like my buddy, Tim Welcher. He's a four stripe brown belt. He's like, how long you been training? 16 years. Another guy, brown belt, how long you been training? 10 years. You know what I mean? He's like, it's time and consistency, right?
Yeah.
And I think in hunting, like we want a cheat code, and we spend a lot of time trying to find a cheat code.
Yeah,
right.
Trail cameras. Yeah,
you name it, like whatever it is.
They're all cheat codes. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's looking for a quick fix, right? And the reality is that you just got to show up and do the work. There's no way to get 20 years of experience in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't work. Like you just got to put the time in.
Yeah.
And that's just, whether it's hunting or whether it's jiu-jitsu or whatever it is, like that's always the path. And sure, you can expedite things, sure, my wrestling background certainly helped, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And so you can have certain things that will help you kind of like get a leg up, you know what I mean?
Steroids,
yeah. Take the Craig Jones and, Gordon Ryan approach, like whatever, but they're not necessarily going to deliver you to the finish line. They can help give you some acceleration, and things like that. But you're right. It's just spending time doing it. Is the cheat code, Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, same thing. Like I was talking to one of my buddies, Drew, that lives up in Iowa. He's like, dude, you kill a lot of animals. You've killed a lot of animals. And I'm like, I get to hunt a lot. I get to do it a lot.
Yeah.
So you train jiu-jitsu a lot, you're going to get better. If you hunt a lot, eventually you're going to kill a lot of animals, you're going to find success. So yeah, it's like anything in life. I mean, they always say hard work is better than talent, any day of the week. And, and even myself, like I play my own game where at first I had no technique, all muscle. So I went with my strengths. And then I went through a phase where I was like, I'm only going to go 50, 60% strength and make it be technique. Mm-hmm. And I learned a few things and I got beat a lot too. And I'm like, all right, fuck this. We're going back to strength, So now I'm kind of balancing the two,
Right.
I kind of gas and brake throughout the round.
But that's
And
another great lesson for hunting, right? It's like you gotta at times you
you got
gotta
to
put
know
your
when to go and know when to back off. And
yeah, you gotta put yourself in some vulnerable spots sometimes hunting. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like you're never gonna have all the answers.
no,
And I think going back to what I was saying earlier, where I don't get to do as much postseason scouting as I used to. And that was hard for me last year. I've kind of gotten used to it now this year because I'm like, it is what it is.
yeah,
Which means I've just got to be more comfortable without having all the puzzle pieces necessarily, right? And it's like being a black belt where it's like I don't need to know exactly what this person's going to do because I got a lot of the answers already, and it's like, and then as I'm going, I'll figure the rest of them out,
yeah, yeah,
and you got to kind of have that approach a little bit, and
yeah,
for me, it's like because of like my schedule and stuff like that now, it's like that's the way I'm having to hunt now. It's like I'm having to hunt and just not going in on bad wins. I'm still not, you don't do the basics wrong, right? So you rely on the fundamentals and
yeah,
rely on your intuition of all the times you've done it before.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's I think I think you and I had a conversation about this one time. I wouldn't try this with upper belts, but a few times if I'll roll with some white belts, I'll close my eyes during the whole round, and it forces me to stay connected. Because if your eyes are closed and you break connection, where did they go? But it forces you to stay connected. And I'll play that game where I just want to grind and have heavy pressure the whole time. And I want to feel their body, feel what they're doing. And it's more when you're doing more of this, you're trying to slide in here and there. And that's a lot of fun to do as well, but that's putting yourself in a vulnerable position, and I'm trying to force myself to unlock something new and try something different. But
unlocking something new is the key word or the key phrase you use there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, because that's a lot of hunting's that way, where it's like you try to put whether it's a new species you're chasing in a new state or whatever the case is, you try to put yourself in some of these vulnerable spots because when you have that the period of time where you just feel really, really uncomfortable, that's actually when you're leveling up. And that was a big learning thing for me, from my buddy Dave as we were training, and it's totally applicable to hunting and that's how a lot of like I would make sense of certain things that were happening to me in jiu-jitsu. It's like I would think about like my hunting journey, like as I was going through, right? And he said to me the one day, I was like, I feel like shit, like I rolled like garbage, like I felt like a day I didn't know what I was doing, at all. And he was like, the days that you feel the worst are the days you're getting better. He's like, the days where you feel the best and you can't miss, he's like, are the days where you're staying the same. He's like, because you're using all the stuff that's like your A game. You're using all your best stuff. He's like, and you know how to get to it. You feel really comfortable. Everything's really smooth. He's like, the days where it feels clunky and it just is, and you're having to try to force some things. You don't want to force stuff. He's like, but that means you're exploring some new paths. He's like, and you're uncomfortable. He's like, and you're kind of sucking because you're doing things that you're not used to. He's like, but that means you're growing. He was like, so that really kind of changed, like, not just like my perspective on training, but it changed my perspective on hunting a little bit too, where I was like, those shit days in the woods, like I had a lot of them this fall, and that's kind of what helped me stay in it during the fall. Cause I was like, this is the good stuff, man. I was like, this is where like all the stuff that's going to be better for me in 2 weeks, in 6 months, in 2 years or whatever, I was like, is being developed now. And so, and it's hard to look at it that way when you're eating a sack of shit, you know what I mean? Like it's tough, you know what I mean? It's like, nobody likes doing it, but it ultimately benefits you when you do it.
Yeah. And, the humility that comes from trying new things and failing, and just knowing that that's how you're going to level up. Even when you're sitting there going, I totally explored something totally new to me that I don't know. And then you're like, and it's that dreaded, okay. You know what I mean? I'm like, I had to tap, but I'm like, he caught me, but I put myself in a bad spot and I find myself like, going into nights now where I'm going, okay, these are 3 submissions and this is all I'm going for. I don't give a crap if a Kimura's there, if head and arm choke's there, if a back take's there. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just going for these 3. And that sucks to stick to that plan like that, But then you have to realize it's practice. It's not a tournament.
Yeah.
tomorrow's a whole nother day, and
Yep.
trying to look at it from the down the road, seeing the playing the big game, not the
Yeah.
the long game, not the short game of it all, and
Yeah.
hunting is a lot of that too.
Well, it's being intentional, I think.
Yeah, as
right?
long as we're not making wild pop shots at animals, as long as our strategy and our approach is methodical, and we take some chances there, that's cool,
Yeah, I think when you said that, the thing that came to mind for me was intentional, and like how it translates for me to the hunting for hunting purposes is, again, going back to what I was saying before, with my limited time that I have, it's like I have to be super intentional about what I'm going to do with like my postseason scouting, and whenever I'm going out to hang trail cameras or whatever the case is. Like I don't have the luxury now to just be like, whatever catches my eye. Oh, shiny object. What's this? You know what I mean? Like I still want to try to explore, right? But there's times in development, in whether it's jiu-jitsu or whether it's hunting, where exploration is great because you get all these things, but then you have to then at some point figure out like what are the things I need to focus on to get better, and then you create intention around those, right? And so for me, intention in hunting is like how I've been able to kind of, still have the type of hunts I want to have, be on the type of animals or on the type of deer that I want to be on, without doing what I'll say is like as much scouting work as I've done in the past. But what I'll say is that like the scouting work that I do now is way more intentional and way more productive. It's still nice to have those days once in a while when I get in where I'm just going to go to a new spot that I've never been to before, and I'm just going to like walk and see what I see. Right. That's the exploration part. That's that's me going, you know what, I'm going to see what happens when I do this today, maybe I get caught, maybe I don't, and then when I come out of it, I'm like, man, there were 3 things in there that were interesting, right? Just like in jiu-jitsu, I might be like, man, I lost all these positions, but there were 3 things that like I learned, like I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, but this I think can work.
Yep.
And that one thing that will work, potentially, that's the thing you create intention around. And then you go, and so after walking like 2 ridges, you might be like, oh, there was nothing there, but there was one thing. And now I'm going to go back and like now when I go to scout or when I go to hunt, it's going to be in this spot, and that's my intention now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes you more focused, and
it does. It does.
Which
You're
is
spot on.
So what's, how have, and then we'll move on to more hunting specific stuff, but like how has it been since you got promoted, as far as like, have you felt the roles? Are they any different?
Yeah, 100%. So as soon as I got the blue belt, it's like somebody injected me with straight like cocaine and confidence.
Yeah.
And for about 2 weeks, I was like, I was hitting stuff. First, like I watched an instructional on my way to the gym and then nail it in a roll. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to have a black belt like by tomorrow. I had like stupid confidence, right? And so again, having that validation, I was like, let's go, And then immediately, like that was for like 2 weeks. And then like week 3, week 4 after promotion, I remember calling you one night and I was like, bro, I actually might put my white belt back on. I was like, I suck so bad. Like, then I got into this like in my head where I'm like, okay, did I just get my promotion for like, because I put in the time and I didn't really earn it, Right. And then I went through that for like a couple of months, it seemed like. And then I popped back out of that. And I was like, all right, this is just a new step. Now it's time to explore and learn some new stuff, and that's the kind of the mode I'm in right now. But I am cheeky because for my birthday, I had a 47 years. I had a 47-minute Shark Tank, and every 3 minutes. And if anybody listening, you know what a Shark Tank is, it sucks ass. For anybody that doesn't know what a Shark Tank is, it's however many minutes you're going. But just imagine wrestling for 40 or 50 minutes. Yeah. And every 3 minutes you get a new body. And it's not break, release, now you got a new guy. I'm already grappling with somebody, and then somebody jumps on my back, sinks in a rear naked choke, and they're like, okay, I'm in now.
Yeah,
so
my turn.
Yeah, so now you're fighting out of that position to begin with. Yeah. But I was getting super cheeky, man. I was like wrist locking dudes and stuff. I was like, because I knew if I wrist locked them and they tapped, we would separate and I'd get a good 10-second breather. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was just getting super cheeky in survival mode, but that was super fun to go through that. But yeah, dude, my only regret, and anybody who's ever trained will say this, the only regret is not starting sooner.
Yeah.
So that's the only regret that I have, and but it's a huge part of my life, and it's something that I see myself doing for a very, very, very long time. I don't ever see myself stopping until I'm in a wheelchair or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I say. I'm like, I'll be doing it until like my body just won't let me do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like you get to that point, like you just start to like, because there's some guys that I train with that are older, and I'm one of the older ones in the gym. I think I think there's one of my buddies is like he and I are the same age. Then there's two guys that are older than me. And the guy, actually my buddy who just got his black belt is 50. He just turned 50.
Yeah.
So, it's like you just have to kind of start to modify, where you maybe, you train fewer days, get more rest days. The biggest thing, and you already do this, and, I don't do it to the extent that you do, but it's just like getting lifts in and stuff like that. So I used to get nicked up and injured. I think I told you this, but like when I hurt my shoulder, I thought maybe I wasn't going to be able to hunt for like a while and stuff like that. I was all the way down to like 158 pounds, and part of the reason why I was getting nicked up all the time is like I was just so light, like I couldn't keep weight on me. And then I went through my PT and stuff like that, and they put me on a lifting program just to kind of like put some horsepower on my frame. More than anything, just to put some meat on me to like to absorb the punishment or whatever.
Yeah, you got to have it.
Yeah. And then before this last tournament, I always competed at 170. I would weigh in at like 160. You know what I mean? Like I was just always severely underweight.
Yeah.
Because I'm an asshole and I didn't want to cut 5 pounds to make 155. Like I was like, it's like I'll just wrestle with bigger guys. So it's whatever. But this last time I had to cut 6 pounds. Like, so I was all the way up to like 176 before the tournament and had to cut 6 pounds to get to 170.
Yeah.
So I went from 158 to like, just call it 175 and like, whatever it was, like a little over, probably like a year and a half, roughly.
Yep. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's super huge.
Yeah. It made a huge difference. Like I'm not any slower than I was. It actually helped me in the like hunting as well, just because I had more fuel like to burn on my body, for long days in the woods, long hikes. I carried the weight of like my gear better in general. You know what I mean? So there's just like a ton of benefit from it.
Well, I remember that first elk hunt that you went on, you and I talked a lot about your prep. And I know right before you left, you were telling me what your weight was and kind of what your cardio conditioning was. And I was like,
cardio was great, but I should have had more weight on me for sure.
Yeah. And I was like, oh shit. And then I'm like, I already knew going into that, I was like, he's going to have a problem with leg strength. And I remember like, as soon as you got back, that was the first thing you said was you were like, cardio was on point. My quads were dead.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, you live and learn. That tournament that I did, being so new to it, I didn't understand the weight, the weight, levels and divisions and whatnot. I came in about 15 pounds under the guys that I went against. And look, people don't think that 15 pounds makes a difference.
Yeah.
That is a ton of weight. That's why there's usually penalties for catch weight and people that don't make weight in, MMA and boxing and everything else. So very first match right out of the gate, I've got just a gorilla of a dude. And I won my first match and I was happy about that because as I have been told, a lot of people don't win your first match, in a tournament. So I was happy about that, but I wasn't cool enough to not blow my wad. And I was done. I mean, I was done. If the first match I went in at 100% strength, the second match I went in at 75% at best.
Right.
I was like sucking on these like honey straw packets, like just trying to get some sugar, some fake energy and whatnot. But dude, I felt like I was a sitting duck,
it's just like when you go out on a hunt, like, guys do this all the time. They'll go out on especially like an elk hunt is a great example of it.
Yeah.
And like they're so stoked to be in the woods and like be elk hunting. Like who wouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
And they'll go out on that first day and they'll do like 15 miles.
Yeah.
And then it's like they're shot in the ass like the next 3 days. You know what I mean? Because it's just like zapped them. It's like you got to kind of, ease. And it's hard to do like in competition because you have like especially if you've not. Because even when I did my first one, it was still hard because I hadn't competed in a long time. Like I grew up wrestling, so it's like I wrestled in plenty of tournaments and stuff like that. But it'd been so long, like you still, it wasn't like it was second nature for me anymore. And you have this like insane adrenaline dump that happens.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like, you just feel like everything's just like gone. Like you got nothing. Like you want to throw up. Your cardio is great, but you feel like you're going to throw up.
I literally came off the mats. And I was like, if somebody put a gun to my head and said, you have to write the name John on a piece of paper, just shoot me.
Just shoot me, yeah.
I had nothing. I couldn't hold a pencil. I was like, you know what I mean? And but anyways, it was a great learning experience. And you compete a lot more than me. And for me, like I've kind of told myself like, hey, as long as I can catch some stuff, I'd love to do at least 1 or 2 a year. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, my plan. And we've got some guys at our club that are doing like 1 a month. Yeah. And they're getting after it. They're traveling, really, really far and whatnot. And I already have a traveling gig, for that pays the bills. So it's kind of hard for me to, but as long as I can get in 1 or 2 a year, I'll be happy with it. And just to kind of level up. But again, with my travel, I get to drop into a lot of places.
Dude, that's such a great
that's like a mini competition right there.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because like I've talked to my coach about that because I wanted to be able to try to compete more in like my work schedule, hunting schedule, stuff like that. It just doesn't work out that I can do it as often as I would like. Mm-hmm. And I do really feel it's just like hunting in a sense that you only get better at it whenever everything's on the line. Well, I shouldn't say you only get better at it. You really get better at it when everything's on the line.
Yeah, what I mean? And you get to test yourself.
Yeah, it's like whenever it's hunting season, that to me is like you can get better during the season when you scout, but you really get better when you're actually in the midst of hunting season. You're having to make decisions on the fly and you're paying the price for making bad choices or whatever the case is, right? Like that stuff sticks with you. You know what I mean? Those are really like sometimes painful, but really good learning opportunities. Like, man, I shouldn't have taken that shot, or man, I tried to cut that wind too close and I thought I could get away with it and I didn't. It's like those are like you don't make those mistakes again usually, right? It's the same thing with competition, right? It's like it's such a good it gives you such good like it illuminates what your holes are like in a very, very obvious way. And if you can't get competition, I do a lot of cross training or I shouldn't say a lot. I do a fair amount of cross training at other gyms specifically for that. Or like when I travel for work, like you were saying, I'll drop into other gyms there because they don't know me. I don't know them. I don't know their game. So I don't know like, yeah, he likes to hit X, Y, and Z. So I just defend the shit out of that. And I've taken away his A game. And now it's an even more even fight, because you can punch above your weight sometimes with guys that are, for lack of a better way to put it, that are better than you. If you know what their A game is and you just take their A game away, you might be able to survive the round with them. You know what I mean? If they're, more advanced or whatever. But when you walk into a new gym and they don't know you and you don't know them, it's like you have to respect their entire game and they have to respect your entire game. And now it's just who's better, who's got better jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you see like where your holes are at, like where did they expose you? And that's like a really like good way of like, I need to fill this in. I need to fill this in. Same thing with hunting where it's like, I can't cut the wind this close on this ridge. When it's a north prevailing, it's going to blow south in this spot because of the thermals. You know what I mean? It's like it's all that real time stuff that you don't get until you're actually doing it.
Yep, that's exactly right. Well, and speaking of that, so hunting, you got any travel this year?
Yeah, I do. Headed back to the Midwest. I didn't go last year because I was chasing that big deer in Pennsylvania around. So I'm headed back to the Midwest this year. I'll be in the plains. Not going to say what state. I'm going to change some things up this year. We're not going to go back to where we've necessarily been before per se. But I'm going to go to an area with open country. Cool. Cause that's really just what what I enjoy, and it's really challenging for me.
Yeah.
And I got this new longbow, and so my goal now is, to kill one on the ground with traditional equipment.
Yeah.
This time in open country. So that's the game plan. I was gonna head back west to chase elk, and I think this year I'm gonna just spend more time in the Midwest is what I kind of decided.
Yeah.
Just because I missed it. I love hunting open country, and so it's like I just want to get as much time in as I can. And so I probably will even limit some of my hunting in PA to a degree. I spent a lot of time in the travel trailer last year in PA, and I'll probably do that again this year, but I'm going to do it in the Midwest, where it's like usually that trip when I'm hunting the plains and I'm in maybe a newish area, I like to have at least 2 weeks to try to figure things out. But this trip, I think I'm actually going to do 3 weeks. So I'll do like a week where I'll be working and hunting from the trailer, right? And so I'll hunt mornings and I'll hunt evenings, or glass at least in the mornings and evenings. Maybe I'll hunt, maybe I won't, just depending, to kind of try to get a feel for what's going on. That way, when my vacation starts, I've got 2 weeks off. It's like I've already kind of got things dialed in a little bit, right? It's like I know where my opportunities probably are, or try to find a big deer that I want to chase, and so hopefully I'll have that kind of like figured out.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. And then around here, it's just literally like I got to get some blood on the arrow of this longbow before I head out to the Midwest. That's the plan. You know what I mean? Try to get some familiarity with that. But what about you, man? What do you got? What do you got cooking for this year? I know you're in the midst of slaying turkeys like you always are, but
yeah. So I did not draw Arizona this year. Well, technically I drew and I didn't draw.
How's that work?
So Arizona does a complete automated system.
Okay.
So I get a text message on the day that they're drawing, and it says from my bank, my local small town Iowa Credit Savings Union Bank, did you, fraud alert, did you authorize an expense to Arizona Fish and Wildlife? And I'm like, yes. Doesn't matter. If Arizona's system, if that transaction doesn't go through within like 3 seconds, they skip you and go to the next person.
Oh, man.
So I learned a very valuable lesson that next year and every year from here on out, on my draw stuff, I can't use my credit union, card.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to like prepaid credit cards, because there's zero security on those whatsoever.
Right.
So that kind of sucks because I was really looking forward to it. It was actually a really nice unit, a rifle bull tag unit, but it was a smoker unit. So
damn.
So that kind of sucks. And then I did not draw Colorado mule deer this year as well. I thought I had a landowner tag available to me, and that landowner tag is not available this year.
Oh, shit.
It's going to another family member.
Okay.
So I'm like, shit, man. So I lost out on my traditional Colorado mule deer hunt, and I lost out on my Arizona hunt. So I'll still go back to Kentucky and hunt that property that I did last year, and then I'll have my 2 buck tags, for Iowa.
Right.
So everything's going to be archery this year. Definitely opens up the doors to do some more like coyote stuff.
Right.
So gonna do some more of that, and then do more total archery challenges this summer as a whole, which I'm excited.
Yeah, because usually you were gone on trips like during those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this year, next weekend, May 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I'm gonna kick off and go to the Tennessee TAC. I think that's a new one for them on the schedule, is that Tennessee trip. And I will be taking a new bow that I just sighted in yesterday.
Nice. What'd you sight in? This is new news to me because I haven't talked to you about it.
Yeah, I know. And by the time this podcast come out, I'll have probably already made a formal announcement anyways. But I am now shooting a PSC.
Nice. Sweet.
Yep. So I picked up a PSC Mach 30 that they sent, and I know everybody says this. This is the best bow I've ever shot.
Best bow I've ever shot. Yeah.
It is the smoothest draw cycle bow that I have ever shot before. I'm not in love with the grip yet, but I have there are accessories,
Right.
for that to get it more to my liking. So there, that's being real.
Right.
I gave a plus and a minus.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, grip's
So
one of those things that's so specific, right? And like, there's a lot you
yeah,
can do to kind of change, the I forget what they're called now, but like swapping out like the grips themselves. Like most boats allow you to do that now at this point,
yeah,
just because
yeah.
everyone.
Matthews has like really gone down the road of like I think when you buy a bow, you get 4 different grips.
Right. Yeah.
Or something like that. So yeah, I mean, obviously, the people are starting to explore more into that, and but yeah, man, I'm digging the bow a lot. We're still in the process of switching out camo. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I got to still have a ton of Under Armour stuff all over the house, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I've been wearing some Cryptek
Yeah.
stuff, and I've been talking to them. I like the company. I like the fit of their products. I like a lot of their patterns
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So now it's just a matter if we can find a way to make a deal work out that makes sense for both of us.
Right.
They have a good product. They like me. I like them. It's just now, can we make the business side of it work? And
Right.
that's always the bullshit part of it all, right? I guess the
Right.
part I
Yeah.
hate. I wish I didn't have to negotiate any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the part of it. So, but yeah, man, we have a couple more weeks of turkey season left. I did fill one of my archery turkey tags here in Iowa last week,
Yeah.
and I did a little scouting trip in Kentucky.
Yeah. I
Got
saw that you were down there.
got my ass kicked for a couple of days, but the last day I was there, I found the turkeys.
Oh, did you?
So yeah,
Nice.
so I know where they're at. So when I go to the Tennessee tack on my way back north, I'm going to stop in Kentucky, hunt a day or two there,
Right.
and see if I can fill one of those tags, and then get back here, see if I can fill that last tag, and then just roll right into food plots. It's probably the biggest as far as like my hunting season goes. That the lion's share of this season is really food plots
Right.
and some TSI stuff. We've got a bunch of down trees that we need to clear out. We've got trees that fell on top of existing habitual game trails.
Mm.
And look, man, I made a mistake last year. We knew about it, and we're like, they'll go around it.
Right.
Nope,
Yeah.
they went to the neighbors. That's how they went around it.
Right.
So mistake.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think it was going to be that impactful. But after we went through the season, it was probably like mid to late November, of 24. And me and my hunting buddy were like, yeah, we screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but it's too late now.
You just got to
So,
make do with what you got at that point.
yeah, yeah. So and neither one of us filled a tag on that property this year.
Hmm.
So, first time in like 20 years that a buck
Wow.
hasn't been taken off that property. So,
That's crazy.
anyways, so we got a ton of work to do there. Thank God Kawasaki came on board this year and hooked me up with a beast of a unit with a big winch that's going to come into play, yanking a lot of this timber and stuff out of the woods.
Right.
And we're going to do around 9 acres of food plots this
Wow.
year. So the most we've ever had out there is 2.
Wow.
So a
Yeah.
significant change to food plots. One of the, and we've wanted to do it, but we just got extra like a kick in the ass to do it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the neighbors planted a lot last year, and we got outfooded. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what it came down to, man. We just got outfed. So we're gonna have to step up our game a little bit, but so that's gonna be probably a couple of weeks worth of work
Yeah.
out there. It's just getting all those plots in.
Yeah.
So that's a bunch of it.
Dude, yeah, you got a busy spring/early summer ahead of you for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for
The,
sure.
So Iowa, and are you going to go back to Kentucky this fall?
Yeah. Yep.
You as well. Yeah, and then any other potential? Because I mean, obviously without the Arizona tag and without the mule deer tag in Colorado, are you looking at any other like over the counter kind of trips like Ohio? Because did you go to Ohio last year, or was that just
I went and I filmed Leslie.
filmed Leslie? That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah. That's what
I went there, and helped her out a little bit, and then she ended up getting it done without me.
Right.
Yeah, so I went out there and we didn't see anything, and then she went back and she toughed it out and she shot one. But yeah, so I think there's a good possibility that I'll probably go and help her put in some food plots as well. So I got to somehow try to squeeze that in as well before their season ends. But and then there's a chance of maybe trying to pick up something like Ohio for the fall. Supposedly, I've got an offer, to hit a place in Illinois. So that's a possibility, but I'm really going to focus hard on Iowa this year, on what we can do with those food plots, and really key in on that. I took, I'll be honest, like the last couple of years, I've probably taken my eye off of Iowa a little bit, and I've just done more Western travels.
Yeah.
And
I was actually going to ask you that, like, if you felt like you spread yourself maybe too thin in some years past, as far as like, and Iowa just became like, I hunt it whenever I'm home type of thing,
That's exactly what's happened. And it's not that I took it for granted. It's just, I was like, I don't really have to plan for it because these other trips are planned. They're draw tags. So I know that I got to be there. And like you just said, that's kind of the way I looked at it was, I'll hunt when I'm here. I know these properties. I kind of already know the way the deer run and where they transition to. I'll be fine. Famous last words,
Yeah.
And and I kind of took my eye off the prize. And I mean, there's like, for crying out loud, I moved here for the deer, so I should prioritize Iowa whitetails more than I have.
Right.
And I'm like, man, what an idiot, So,
do you have any good prospects that you know of that made it through last year from like picking up sheds or just like from trail camera, like late season trail camera inventory or anything?
Yeah. So there was 2 bucks that made it through last year that were on the hit list last year already. One of them I actually took a shot at, and everybody says, oh man, you wouldn't believe it if you were there. This is one of those scenarios. I had a buck dead to rights, and when I say he dropped, his brisket bounced off the dirt. I mean, he just flat pancaked down, and I watched the arrow go 2 foot over his back.
Damn.
And I was like,
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. And he was on a hillside, so when he like picked up his hooves to drop, he actually went. You know what I mean?
Right.
So not only did he drop 2 foot, he dropped elevation 2 more foot as well. Yeah. So I was like, whoa.
It was like the Matrix.
Yeah, like I missed him by a mile,
Right.
I was like, well, there's that. But
right. Well, just like what we were talking about earlier, man. You know what I mean? It's like, you learn those lessons like in the fire. Like there's only certain lessons you learn that you have to be baptized by fire to figure it out. You know what I mean? Or not to figure it out because you know this, but like to go, elevation definitely played a role here, and just all the things that went into it. It's like you replay it, you go back through it and say like, what decision could I have made differently? How might have this played out differently? All the what ifs, and that's what kind of prepares you for the next kind of encounter, if you will.
And that also goes back to one of those old memories, old lessons that it was so old I forgot about it.
Right.
If it's
because that happens too.
Yeah. If it's inside of 20 yards, shoot away. If they're over 40 yards, shoot away. In that 25 to 35, they're close enough to hear and see, but they're far enough away that there's enough reaction time of them to outbeat the arrow sometimes, right? So he was standing right at like 29 yards. But because of the elevation drop, even if I would have aimed at his brisket, the best I could have done is a spine shot. At best, I probably still would have missed him. So
you had the best outcome actually, outside of like harpoon, like just double lunging him. Like that was the best outcome you could have had otherwise.
Yeah, miss clean and hey, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember being taught that and seeing that play out 20 years ago. So so that worked out. But yeah, so he made it through, and there's another real heavy split G2 buck that made it through, and so we definitely have a couple of prospects. And then there was a couple of just really nice up and comers last year that I looked at and I'm like, oh yeah, they need one more year, maybe 2 more years.
Right.
So yeah, so we've got that, and I think with the extra food, I think we'll pull in some more because there was always some bucks that were like within a mile of us on other people's trail cameras, and I'm like, damn, we've never seen that buck before.
Right.
He's holding true. He's holding pretty tight. So maybe we can draw some stuff in,
Right.
and I always say too, like once those bucks go hard horn, you might lose one or two of yours, and you might inherit one or two more from the neighbor
Yeah.
or something like that. So
Yeah.
as they start to bust up.
Yeah. What's the potential of those two that made it through last year? Like, what are you thinking for potential on those guys, on those jokers?
I think one will go upper 60s and one will go mid 70s.
Really?
Yeah,
Nice.
the heavy one will go mid 70s. Now the one that I say is low 60s, I'm giving him really an upper 50s to a low 70s because he's got about 15 points.
Oh, man.
These stupid flyers. So if he gets all of his flyers back
Right.
and then adds some tine length and some mass, that's a deer that could have that 20, 25 inch increase in a
Right.
year.
Yeah.
Because he should be going from 4 to 5.
Okay.
So he could have, well, I should say, yeah, I think he was 4 this past fall. So that 4 to 5, those deer can do crazy numbers, right?
Yeah.
Same as 3 to 4, 4 to 5. It seems like there is just monstrous jumps there.
Yeah, but that 4 to 5, that's like if they have like unique antler characteristics like flyers or a drop or whatever their, anomalies are, they usually are exacerbated like that additional year. It's like
Yeah,
if they have-
especially if he's got 5 flyers that were an inch and they all become 2.5.
yeah.
I mean, dude, you're talking 12, 13, 14 inches just on flyer
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't take deer like that. It doesn't take a whole lot for them to make big, big, big jumps. I mean, he'll still be a mainframe 150s deer.
Right.
And his garbage will put him up pretty good, but
Yeah.
nets for fishing, man.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's like I ain't
Grow-
paying
if
attention
they-
to none of that.
If they grew it, it counts.
That's where I get so frustrated by that. Oh, I shouldn't say I don't pay much attention, to be quite honest, but like I always find it silly, like the idea between like gross. I get it, like for the purpose of like putting deer in books and like
Yeah, you got
blah
to
blah 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 blah.
categorize them somehow.
Yeah, it's like I get it, but it's like if he grew it and it was there when he was alive, like that's what he is in my book.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not. Oh, there's a half-inch deduction because he wasn't symmetrical on each. I'm like, who cares? You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like,
so I shot a buck in Kansas. It was right just a couple weeks after my dad passed away, and I had trail camera pictures of him in velvet. I had trail camera pictures of him the first time I went there to hunt him, and then when I shot him, he had these like can openers. This can opener flyers off of his twos, and he broke both of those off. And with Old Barn, I had those put back on. And I mean, people ask me his score. I give him the score of what he was when I shot him. But as
Right.
far as on the wall, I put those can openers back on because, like I said, he had them all year long, and I had 50 trail camera photos of it.
Right.
And he had only broken them off the week before I killed him. It got like stupid nasty cold, and I think everything just got real brittle, and they just snapped.
And what week was that you killed him? Was it?
I
Was it
shot
later?
him.
Was it later November?
No, I shot him January 1st.
Oh shit, yeah. Well then, yeah. I mean, like by the time like you get through like the second week in November, man, if deer in Kansas aren't busted up already, like you're pretty lucky.
Yeah,
it's like
I mean, he carried those all the way into Christmas.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
And then lost them right after that. Yeah. So, so I was like, that's the only time I've ever done that with a deer.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it's not, and it wasn't like I took a deer that was 150 and made him a 200 incher. I took a deer that was 142 and put him back to a 151,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds like a fun fall, dude.
Yeah, it's not,
it feels like it should be like you're going to have time to enjoy it this year.
yes, it's the first time in, since 2016 that there's not a Western trip.
Yeah.
So,
And I love going out west, but there is like a level of like stress and just, and look, not looking for an oh woe is me, right? Oh woe is me, I have to go out and hunt elk somewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just you do feel scattered, and you feel like you just don't ever have enough time in like one spot,
Yeah.
And
I definitely, and that's the way I seem like I always feel. By the time November kicks in, it got to the point where it was feeling like a job. Like I felt like I was going to a job unprepared and I'd lied on my resume.
Right.
And that's how I felt during the whole rut. And I was like, well, I'm here. And I'm like, that's what they say. It's the rut. You just got to be there. Anything can happen. And I was going into the last couple of seasons kind of telling myself, like, I mean, I hope something happens.
Right. You're hope hunting, which is always frustrating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's not the way I do anything in life. Dude, I'm so methodical. If I got to go to the bathroom, like, I'll hold it until I have another reason to do something on the way.
On the way,
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I'm way too methodical for that. And I know I've said it on probably this podcast, if not other podcasts I know I have. I'm actually not a fan of the rut. I don't like chance. I would rather have the intel, have the scouting, have the trail cameras, go in and ambush where I know that deer's going to be.
Yeah.
And to me, I like playing that game. I don't like going, well, I know this is a good rut spot. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Now, if that's what my job or career or life at that time is dictating, by all means, go do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And hope and pray and,
just be in the woods and, you can't kill him from the couch. Yeah. It's that old saying, right? But
yeah, I really like hunting, but I love killing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way to put it, man. Like, and that's, and you can only really kind of get there when you aren't leaving things to chance, so to speak. Right?
And so by definition of that, like, you have to be prepared and be capable.
Yeah.
And those are two things that I've neglected. I haven't been putting in the time that I was in the past. So I kind of felt like every season I've kind of gone in half-ass prepared.
Yeah.
And that plays with your head too.
It does, right? Because you kind of walk into it going, did I do everything that I could have done? Right.
Yeah.
And
if you don't kill, then you start thinking, damn it, John, if you would have put in more time, you maybe could have had a better season. And
right.
And I'm not a fan of, well, there's always next season.
Like,
is there?
Yeah. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah.
I mean,
this might be it. You know, it's like,
yeah. So I hate looking at things like that. Like, oh yeah, well, there's always next time.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I don't like that. I don't like that approach either. I mean, if you've done everything you can do with what you have, then that's a different story. Even if it
100%.
doesn't end up being enough, right? It's like you're skinny on time. You couldn't get here, there, or whatever the case is, right? It's like I did the best I could with what I had available, right?
Exactly.
So that guy out there that's listening that can only hunt 4 days a year.
Yeah.
It's like, don't beat yourself up if you're not filling tags, man. It's like you're doing the best you can with the time that you got.
Yeah,
totally. And that's all there is to it.
Totally different scenario. But like, if I had the time or I created my own obstacles that kept me from doing what I could have done.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah, then I'm like, man, I screwed up, on that. I feel like I took myself out of the game before the game started, know.
Speaking of time, man, like how do you balance, it's definitely been a struggle for me, like balancing during hunting season, hunting and training. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, it's funny you said that because Friday night we came off the mats and I told my coach, I said, something that I realized I was doing without realizing I was doing it is I know what our class schedule is.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's like, hey, do you want to go to this trade show or do you want to go do this travel or if there's a hunt or whatever, I'm like, what's the dates on that? And I look at it and I go, how many training days am I going to miss?
And how many other ones can I sneak in before I go? So it's like, okay, I'll have to miss 2 while I'm gone.
Yeah.
But if I can get 2 extra ones before I leave, dude, I did the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the funniest thing because, there's a lot of things in life that, I prioritize, but I can't say that there's anything I've completely rearranged my schedule for. Kids' birthdays, anniversaries, and jujitsu.
That's about it.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm right there with you, dude. Like last year when I was chasing that deer and I was living in the front seat of my truck or in the trailer, I based my schedule around, being home certain days, like for a reset, like so I could train. And then, so it would basically be, I would train on Sunday and then nothing on Monday. And I would train Tuesday and I would leave Tuesday and I'd go hunt like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'd come back, train Sunday, Monday, right? Like, and I was missing 2 days anyway. And I was like, all right, I can give up those days, but I'm going to hunt. But I would look at the weather then too. And some days it'd be like, yeah, the weather's going to be great, like Monday, Tuesday, but it's going to suck like Wednesday, Thursday. So I would drive up, stay, train on Sunday, drive up after training, hunt Monday, Tuesday, drive home Tuesday night after hunting so I could train Wednesday, Thursday where the weather was bad, and then leave Thursday night after training to go back up to hunt Friday morning. Like it was, and this place is 2.5 hours away. You know what I mean? It's like, it was bananas.
Totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
So this past weekend, I was in Kentucky, and I was hunting, and I left on Thursday to come back home, make it home late Thursday night. And my wife goes, "Oh, you're going to come home a day early because my oldest son was home from college that weekend." But because he was home, technically I didn't need to be home because he could take care of the dogs.
Right.
She was out of town, by the way. And so she's like, "Oh, you're going to come home so you can spend time with Brendan." I'm like, yeah, that's it. And then she goes, "Wait a second. You're friggin' coming home so you can make Friday night gi class." And I'm like,
got me.
Yeah. I mean, technically, that's the reason why. So I'm like, I can see my son anytime. She's like, "You can train jujitsu anytime." And I'm like, "But can I though?
But can I? It's like, yeah, I'm the same way, man.
I'm like, I got this Kanto choke that I'm starting to get really clean, and I need to stay on top of it.
It's so bad, like, so when I was out in Kansas a couple years, whatever it was, 2 years ago, and I killed that deer, I made my way back through and I came to see you, and you had busted up ribs, and we went to the gym anyway, and so I could train. You know what I mean? It's like, so even while I was out on a trip, I was like, I didn't have any clothes, so I borrowed something from you and went and bought a pair of shorts. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, let's go train, for a day.
Yeah.
And I've already planned, I know you and I talked about this, because I have enough points to draw Iowa. I'm just waiting for my daughter to go off to college. Which, she'll be a senior next year, so it'll probably be 2026 when I draw. Because I'm going to come out and like live out there is my plan. I'm going to come out like late September and just live for the whole season and try to, chase an Iowa giant, and just spend the whole season out there. And someone asked me about training, and I was like, my boy John trains. It's like, I'm literally just going to go train with him. I was like, I'm going to get on the schedule, and I'm going to work like a normal, I work remotely. I was like, and I'll hunt in the mornings and I'll hunt some evenings and take the good weather days off. I was like, and then I'll go train on the evenings that I'm not hunting. I was like, so I was like, I won't have to miss any training time.
Well, and that's the coolest part about as the season goes on, I would actually go sit in the tree, walk out at dark, and then drive straight to class, walk into class in camo, change, and everybody's like, "Dude literally comes from the woods,"
Yes.
Straight to the gym every night. Yeah, so that's awesome. Always cool because it doesn't interfere, once it starts getting darker, sooner. So that was pretty nice. But yeah, man, between so we have my resident club, and then there's another club 30 minutes away, and there's another club 20 minutes away. But between all those clubs and the different schedules, we're good.
We're golden.
Yeah, we can train however, as much as we want, whenever we want, morning, evening,
dude,
doesn't matter.
That is going to be such a fun trip. Like, I'm so looking forward to that. Like I said, it'll be months long, which would be great, and like be able to be out there with you and hang out and train and hunt and stuff like that. But I remember whenever I was coming back from Kansas, Megan at one point called me, and she's like, how's everything? How are you doing or whatever? And she knew I was at your place at that time.
Yeah.
I was like, good. I was like, John and I went to train and this, that, the other. And I was stopped and I was like, really? I was like, I killed a giant in Kansas. I was like, and now I'm just traveling around the Midwest, like
Yeah.
running, hanging out with my friends doing jujitsu. I was like, dude, I was like, I'm living my best life. I was like, you
Yeah.
kidding me? I was like,
It doesn't get any better.
yeah, I was like
Yeah.
killing big deer and doing jujitsu. I was like, can I just do this every year? It'd be great,
Yeah. Yeah.
shit.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's like that last trip I had out there in Provo, and training with the guys at Fieldcraft. I got a couple of nights in there and got to roll with all their guys, and then roll with Greg, and he just obliterated me. But
mhm.
that's so much fun. I'm like, man, I was like, this was like a little miniature tournament in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't going 100%.
Yeah.
We're going 90. We're going
Right.
80, 85.
Yeah.
But at that the elevation, I
Yeah.
was glad that we weren't going 100.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No doubt.
it takes me a few days to kind of get acclimated, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
it's so much fun. And um, yeah, like I said, and the third gym actually just opened up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
so
Is that Ben's?
yeah, hmm
Is this nice? Yeah.
yep.
Sweet.
Yep. So yeah, he's and what's funny is he's mostly a no-gi guy, but
Yeah.
he's teaching the gi stuff over there.
Hmm.
And I've never ever rolled with Ben with a jacket.
Hmm.
So I'm actually going to try this week to go up there a couple times on the days he's teaching, just for the sole purpose that I want to roll with him in a jacket.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, to kind of just see what that's
Yeah.
like.
Heck yeah, man. Oh, I'm looking forward to like the year that am able to come out and just spend like the entire fall out there hunting with you and doing jujitsu and just, getting to spend time with you because we don't get to see each other often enough.
I know, it sucks.
In
It's
person.
like Harrisburg here and there, and
Yeah.
that's about it. And
Yeah. So we'll have to remedy that, man. Hopefully we'll remedy that here in the not so distant future. And then
Yeah.
maybe I'll plan to try to come out too and like do some like a scouting shed hunting trip or something like that this winter too, so we can hang out and
yeah.
bebop around. But man, I've kept you here. Just
Oh, by the way, are you coming to the Seven Springs TAC event?
I might this year only because typically like it's always the same weekend as our anniversary, like every year, but we're actually going away like prior to our anniversary, so I might be free that weekend. I'm not 100%
yeah.
sure, but like it's more possible than it's been in the past. Put it that way.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's the biggest of all
Yeah.
the TACs. It's the biggest one, and I'll be out there with Sever,
Okay.
all 4 days.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, dude, you have to,
See, I'll try
come
to
out.
make it because I know a bunch of my buddies are always there too. It's like it's a
Yeah.
nice place for me to just kind of see everybody. I mean, I'll have the longbow, so I'll have to shoot the kids course probably. But nice, man.
I'll shoot for my knees.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome, man. Well, hey, buddy, I kept you here like an hour and 20 minutes. We'll be sensitive to your time on a Sunday.
good.
I appreciate you hopping on, dude. I always love talking to you. You're one of my boys. I'm super stoked for you to get your blue belt. Pumped for that. Pumped about the tournament. And I'm just so glad that you're, in jiu-jitsu and, and that we have all these things that you and I are able to bond over. It just makes it that much cooler. We have just, we had a lot of stuff in common before, and now it's just,
Yeah.
it's like a different level of like, commiserating our injuries and, and our ass beatings and so forth,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just cool whenever I have buddies who are like my age that are out there doing hard stuff, like willingly and things like that. So I have an appreciation and respect for you for that.
Yeah,
of course.
no, likewise. Like I said, man, I'd been trying to find a club for so friggin' long, and I'd pretty much just given up on it, and literally there's been one 20 miles down the road and the whole time, and I didn't even know it. So so that's been super awesome to find that, and yeah, dude, I'm super anxious to get on the mats with you and learn some stuff from you and whatnot. And I'll try to level up my strength, and I still think you're still going to beat me willingly. So
I don't know about all that. We'll have fun regardless, and we'll learn some stuff from each other. I know that for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. But before we run out of here, though, let people know where they can find out more about you, watch videos, like all the stuff you have going on, so they know where to find you.
Yeah, please. Instagram, johnny.utah.hunt. That's more of the day-to-day stuff, and I stay pretty active on that. The show is called Primal Divide. You can find that on the Waypoint Channel app. Also, Primal Divide on YouTube. And then, my other small little business, Bourbon Barrel Calls, on social media as well. Turkey calls made from reclaimed bourbon barrel heads.
Awesome. Get that Yelp, son.
That's it.
Awesome, buddy. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I'll talk to you soon, dude.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, brother.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. And if you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And hell, while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there too. I'd be super appreciative if you do those couple things for me. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible: Tacticam, Osseo Gear, Hawk Optics, Tethered, Face Off E-Bikes, and Lathrop & Sons Boot Company. And until next time, we'll see y'all.